Welcome to Bear Tracks, the official podcast for Butler Community College. In each episode, we feature inspirational and lively conversations with our graduates about their memories of student days, stories, challenges, and career highlights. We have so many alumni who are leading change and innovation in their respective fields around the world. And whether you're a recent graduate or a seasoned professional, we hope you'll find inspiration and new perspectives through the conversations we have on this show. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the episode. Welcome to Bear Tracks, our first episode of 2025 on the official podcast for Butler Community College. I'm your host, Hayley Hobbs, and with me today, I'm really thrilled to have my friend and coworker of 12 years, Averie Nelson, with me. Averie's our Director of Development and Scholarships at the Foundation here at Butler. And Ave, thanks for making time for me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be your first episode of 2025.
Yeah, we need to kick the year off really well, so I call it on the big guns here.
Well, I don't know about that. However, there is lots of things happening in 2025 that we're excited about. And as we start off a new year and students are starting to think about what they're going to do for the fall, we have lots of things to share with them.
Yeah, and that's really the main reason I wanted you on the show. This week that we're recording, our faculty have just come back for the semester, and that means that students will be back next week. And you have a very important and pivotal role here at Butler and in the foundation. Tell me and the audience what you do and why it's important.
Well, that's really funny because I've had that question quite a lot as of late. I'm excited to have my nephew starting his first semester of Butler this spring. And it was really fun to host my brother and sister-in-law on campus the first week of January. And they left Butler and went, wow, what a great place. Where was this kind of institution when I was going to college? And they've heard me talk about Butler for years, but they really got the welcome mat rolled out to them, and they were just in awe of the things that we have to offer students here at Butler on a small scale. So they were asking me, okay, so what do you really do? And my daughters piped up and said, well, she asks people for money and then she gives away to students and to faculty who need it for their programs. So that really is truly the long and the short of what I do here is work with donors, companies, organizations to support our mission at the foundation. And that's to support our students and to support our faculty and their programs. So that can look very differently in different ways for different things. And so with faculty being back on campus, just, reaffirming to them that if they have a student that has a need that they know about and they don't know how to help them or where to send them, that the foundation office is always a great place to start because we may not know, but we certainly know who to go to ask or who to see. And if it's a financial issue, then we know which stones that we can turn over to see how we can help the student.
We've really worked to be a resource to our colleagues and to the community. I think, you definitely field the most attention and calls and requests from constituents about how you can help somebody they know, their student or their niece or nephew like you have or whoever it is, make Butler even more affordable and more attainable to them. And so the reach that you have is really broad, and I don't think probably a lot of people understand that if they weren't sitting in your chair and walking in your shoes. But to your point, scholarships are the most important thing we do in our office, or at least that's how we feel about it. And so tell us a little bit about how the foundation scholarships differ from those given out by the college itself.
So what I tell people the difference between foundation scholarships and institutional scholarships are institutional scholarships are either a scholarship that you are working for, whether it's you're working on the basketball court or in the livestock judging arena or the fine arts of some way. You earn those by doing a job. Academic scholarships you earn by your academic performance. And so our scholarships are different because they are a wide variety of criteria. Each scholarship criteria is as unique as the donor who created it. And so a lot of our donors are looking for a student that was like them, a student that is similar, has similar interests as they do or did. And so those scholarships are different in that kind of criteria. We have donors that know that not all students are high academic achieving, and that doesn't mean that they're not going to be great adults who have careers and are out there working. And so sometimes they're looking for the student that is that middle of the road academic student. And so that's one way that our scholarships are different from the institution is they are privately funded by our donors. Those are donors, both through their companies or organizations or through their own personal wealth or efforts or giving dollars to support students. And so that's very different from institutional dollars that are funded through the institution through other means.
And we have very generous donors, very selfless donors. Our scholarship fund count is over 300 now, right? We have more than 300 endowed and annual funds for scholarships.
Yes, we are just over 300. It seems to fluctuate just a tick. Some days it's a little above 300, some days it's a little below. I think it kind of just looks at which view of funds I'm looking at. Transfer scholarships are not always included in that count. And so we have several of those, which I know we plan to talk about those in a little bit. So I would say, just right over the 300 mark.
And when you said that donors, they want to look for a student that was like them or something that they have a connection with, why do you think that is? Do you think that it's just because, their experience at Butler was so singular, or is it truly just, this was the experience I went through and I know that I needed help and somebody else might too?
I think it varies from donor to donor. I think about donors one in particular who grew up in Butler County, came to Butler Community College, was in our automotive program, and through that program was able to get a job and work in the industry, and then ultimately ended up in the aircraft industry as an aircraft mechanic and made a great living with a great retirement, was able to support his family. And so, but remembered that the roots of where he got his start was at Butler and through that program. And so that's the kind of student they want to support, is a student from Butler County who is studying that program. And then you have other donors who know that they attended community college and they struggled, and so they want to help a student that is, attending a community college. And so here they are, even though we aren't their alma mater, we're in their community now. And so they see the value. We have other donors who went to four-year institution. They didn't go to community college. They didn't really know a lot about community college until after they were retired from their own job and were introduced to us through other friends. And they attended our events and they had an opportunity to sit down at the table with our students and engage in conversation. And they were moved by our students' stories and all of the things that they're juggling. So it's all over the board with why people want to help and the profile of student that they want to help. So we have some donors that want to support single parents because they were single parents trying to go to school, and they know that they needed the help and appreciated the help. And without the help, they wouldn't have been successful. And so they now want to pay it forward. So it's really hard to say why they choose what they choose. And I don't think there's a one size fits all for them.
I think the main point that we learn, and even what I've learned talking to people to do the show, is that it's personal. Butler's always personal to people, one way or another. Even if, like you said, they didn't attend here, there's still something that really personally reaches them. And I think that's just a hallmark of the institution. So tell me about your personal experience with Butler, because you also didn't go to Butler.
Right. I grew up in southern Oklahoma on the Texas border, and to go to college was not an option for me. I'm a first generation college student. I'm really proud of that. I have an older brother who did go to college and ultimately chose the military route. So I can say I was the first one to finish college and then also finish an advanced degree. But I had to go away from home to go to college at least an hour away. I didn't have an option as a college in my community to stay at. I went to a small school. That was great for me coming out of a smaller high school. And so I married late in life and I married a Butler alum and was introduced to the institution through him. And we often spoke about his experience at Butler Community College and how he would not have been encouraged to go on to a 4-year university had he not attended Butler. He also is a first generation college student and the first one in his family to graduate with a bachelor's degree. And that story resonated with me because I couldn't imagine not being encouraged to go to college and supported in that way. And so I always had that extra push. And so after I moved to Kansas and was looking for new career opportunities, I ended up applying for a job at the foundation that they had. And, I laugh and say, I just wanted a job. I just needed something to do. I was bored at home and the foundation rolled the dice on me. They actually, funny enough, thought I would not stay, that I would use it as a stepping stone job. And here I still am 19 years later, fully drinking the Butler Kool-Aid, as some would say. And I love this institution. I love what we stand for. I love what we offer to students. I see that we have programs where students can get a certification. They can get a 2-year degree and they can go right to work if that's what they choose, or they can transfer to another institution when they leave here and finish a bachelor's degree, or then continue on to complete a master's or a doctorate or whatever their goals are. But like you said, it's a personal place. It's like a family, and we all work together to support the students and support their educational goals and dreams. And we offer small class size. The people who are teaching the class are the professors and not just graduate assistants. And not to take away from graduate assistants, there's a place for them. It's just not here in our small, intimate family environment. And so it didn't take me very long to realize how special this place was and how special of an institution it was, and really what a great benefit to our community. And then once I learned about our local high schools having the opportunity to send their juniors and seniors to Butler as high school students to get a jump on their education, or instead of taking a advanced placement course, they could take a college course and still get their high school credit, but yet also get their college credit for that course at the same time. And that's such a valuable opportunity for those students who are academically successful and motivated, and they're high achievers, high academic achievers. So, not every community, every high school has a post-secondary education institution that can help them with that. And there's a lot of value there. So here I am, just continuing to embrace that opportunity to support those students.
So, as you said, you've been there 19 years, and we know that the world of higher ed changes, but, a little more slowly than some things do. But what's the biggest change that you've seen? And it could be even just in what you're doing, the administering of our scholarships, but what's the biggest change in almost 2 decades that you've seen in your world and in higher ed?
I'll just specifically talk about my world because when I arrived here, I did a different job than what I do today. But at that time, the Butler Foundation had an endowment of less than $5 million. And I remember when we hit the $5 million mark, and the foundation was dispersing about $25,000 to $30,000 to students annually. And in that almost 2 decades, I've seen us grow to $18 million in an endowment, dispersing anywhere from $750,000 to $880,000 to students, direct support to students. And then when you take into consideration the program support dollars that we give back to the institution, we are supporting the college with more than $1 million. And that's exponential growth in just a relatively short period of time. I also have seen the change in the digital transformation, as many industries have. But when I started, we were doing paper scholarship applications and processing those in a very manual manner. And one of my career highlights at this point, which kind of sounds silly, but is being a voice of change in taking that to an online process and utilizing a scholarship management platform to be able to offer an online scholarship application and to award those scholarships through really a digital process as opposed to a old school paper and pencil process. It's more efficient. It allows us to do our work just really in a better way. And that's where our students are today. And it doesn't matter if they're the first time full-time high school students or if they are an adult returner. They are very digitally savvy, and everything that they do is at their fingertips of a laptop or their phone. And so we're able to meet that need and continue awarding in that way. So that's an exciting change that we've seen. When I arrived at Butler, they were in their very first quiet phase of a campaign. And now we've completed 2 other campaigns and raised money to build a culinary arts building. And that was a project that the foundation took on, which when I first got here, we would have not been able to do that. And so that's exciting that our little small but mighty team has been able to do with a host of volunteers. And that's exciting as well.
It's always nice to be reminded of it because me being in there with you every day, we're doing the grind. But that's all I've known is the foundation being at a sophisticated enough level to do things like that. And you have really seen it come from A to B. So I appreciate, even personally, the reminder of where we've been and where we are now and how we are I don't want to say a beacon, but we are kind of like a beacon to our colleagues throughout the state at the other community colleges. They look to us for trends and what are we doing and how are we changing our processes, and not that we can't learn from them because we absolutely do, but it's so nice that we've been able to position ourselves to be looked up to. So yeah, I appreciate that.
I love that you talked about coming in and working here, and you've been here 12 years and you've had the opportunity to see some change, but we've always had a really sophisticated system and sophisticated processes. And that question of where have I seen us go in the last 19 years really caused a great opportunity to reflect and think about where we have gone. And sometimes it's when we're in the grind and the day to day and we leave and we're tired and, maybe it was a day I had to say no to somebody I couldn't help, which is always heartbreaking for me. We have come a long way and we do amazing work. And our recently retired president used to tell people that she had the best job at Butler. And I always had a fun time arguing with her, so to speak, and telling her that she was wrong. She didn't have the best job at Butler because I had that job. And it really truly is a great job because it is an opportunity to work with generous people in our community, well, or really even across our nation, because we have donors from coast to coast, but to help them help our students and to see that the joy that they get from giving and then the working with the student and the unbelievableness that they have that somebody that they don't even know is willing to help them financially. That's just a really rewarding, great place to be, is to be the helper and the helpee in both ways. So that's a great reminder to see that transition also over the last almost 2 decades, which is just crazy to think about. It's
Yeah.
it's a long time.
It is a long time. And a perfect shift, because I did want to focus on how you directly impact the students through the scholarship program. So you, of everybody on our team, face to face with students the most on a weekly basis, sometimes when it's busy, a daily basis, like it will be next week when school starts. So tell me what you've observed about how the scholarships you give away impact our students and maybe how that has changed the way you view certain things about higher education.
Well, I'm going to correct you and say that you give away. And while I get to be the instrument that gets to pull the trigger and help guide those decisions, it takes our whole team. It takes everybody doing their part to be able to help these students. The student profile has changed quite a bit in the last 2 decades. It's been up and down with the economy. It seems that sometimes when the economy is really strong, our enrollment goes down because our adult learners are out working and they're earning a good wage. And when the economy takes maybe a little bit of a downturn, adult learners take the opportunity to come back to college and learn new skills and new trades. Or maybe they've always wanted to take some business classes or whatever the case may be. And so I've seen that ebb and flow a little bit. Most recently, I've seen a huge change with our first-time full-time students, especially our local students. And when I say local, I mean in our region or in our county specific to Butler County. I say that students today, all students, but specifically our high school students, are smarter consumers than when I was selecting where I wanted to go to college. They're really focused on that intimate environment. They like the small environment. They like to really know their classmates and their professors, and they know that they can do that here. They're comfortable with this institution because they've always known it, but they are also more conscious of the nickels and dimes. And so they have experienced quality education, sometimes by taking classes while they were in high school, and they for sure have seen it be at an affordable price. And so that has been a huge shift in our first-time full-time students, is really looking at that cost savings. You know, they can take a class at Butler for a third of the cost of some of our larger in-state universities. And so they're thinking about college over the long haul, especially if they want an advanced degree. They're trying to figure out how to do that and not take on an immense amount of debt. I wasn't thinking about long-term debt when I went to college. I was thinking about, just where I was going to go, where I would fit in, who had the program I was looking for, where would I be able to make friends easily, those types of things. And now those things are important to our students, but they're looking at the long-term debt as well. I have a junior in high school who's taking classes with us, and that is something that she's really talking about is long-term debt. How can I finish my goals, get my degree, but how can I do it with quality education for the most affordable price? And I know it's not just because we talk about that on a regular basis and the work that I do, but I think that that's just how she's thinking about things in her long-term future and, what it costs to live and what kind of job is she looking for? What's her earning potential? And then what's it going to cost to get there, and how long is it going to take her to pay that back? And I see her friends talking about that also. And so I think that's been a little bit of a shift as well. As far as students that I have seen as of late, it seems like I've seen a lot of high school students in the last couple of weeks, because high school started back a couple of weeks ago and they're thinking about spring semester, and they have an opportunity to choose from our menu of classes offered for our general education tuition waiver if they're still high school students. But sometimes they'll want to take an additional class or two that is not on that gen ed tuition waiver. And you are not eligible for federal financial aid or academic scholarships until you're a high school graduate. And so that, while taking those classes in high school is a huge cost savings on the back end, it's also very costly on the front end. And so how can we help them and be a good community partner to our local school districts and local students and taxpayers, and help them, get a jump on their college and, already immerse them in that environment? So that's been a little bit of a shift and a change over time. When I first got here, we didn't have high school academies, and we started those. And I watched our first 7 students graduate from Butler with an associate degree, and then the next day graduate from high school. And now we see almost 100 students do that every May. And that's, been a nice change and something exciting. That's not for everybody. That is for very motivated, high academic achieving students. But it's exciting to know that that's an option and an opportunity for them. Over time, I've seen students come back as adult learners who say, I really always wanted to be a nurse, or I really always wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't think that was achievable or obtainable. And I had to go straight to work right out of high school. And so they've been able to come back and do maybe our 2+2 program with elementary education and become an elementary school teacher and never leave the Butler campus, but yet be able to finish with a bachelor degree in elementary education. Or maybe it's a nurse. Maybe they always wanted to be a nurse, but they didn't feel like they could accomplish that. And so they chose something else. And then, several years go down the road and they come back and go, you know what, I can be a nurse. There are opportunities for me. And then they start down that path to get into nursing school, and that they're able to do that. And so that's also really exciting as well.
All of the things you're talking about make me think of the community college model, which is built, I think, at its core on being nimble and responding to the workforce, the economy, student population changes, and just general student needs that are able to be more tailored and attended to. Certainly at Butler and most community colleges, I think, have that personality as an institution that we're here to meet you where you are and to help you get to where you need to be, kind of a thing. And so I know that back in the day when community colleges were still fairly new, it was, and by new, I mean like more widespread across the country, and people were really starting to attend them as like real first steps to college. That was kind of always the thing, was we're here to adapt. And I think it's cool that we're able to do that perhaps more easily as you can in education than a 4-year institution that has a long history of things that can't be changed so much. So yeah, I think that's awesome. One thing we haven't touched on that you also work on that is very directly impactful and that you will be busy with shortly is the Student Emergency Loan Program. And it's not unique to us, but it's something that not a lot of people know that we do. So give us a little rundown on emergency loans and what they do.
Well, emergency loans are near and dear to my heart. I have changed my mind about emergency loans over time because of my interaction with students. And I was blessed, but did not know how blessed I truly was. I always had somebody I could call for help, whether it was, I always laugh and say, First National Bank of DAD. If I found myself in a pickle, I could call dad and he was able to help me. But we have some students that they don't have anybody they can call. And they are the person that their family calls for help. And so then when they need something, they don't have anyone to call. And our student emergency loan program is been put in place to help students with a no interest short-term loan to help them if they find themselves in I don't necessarily want to say emergent event, but just something that's come up that was unplanned. And one particular time that we see that is more so at the beginning of the academic year than at the beginning of the spring semester. But we have students that are eligible for federal financial aid. And the way our Title IV funding works is that aid will post to a student account, but they don't have access to that cash, if you will, beyond what it's going to pay on their tuition fees and books. Some students are eligible for additional cost of attendance dollars, which would be help with food, rent, groceries, other living expenses. And there's a formula that is used for that. But a student who they are coming to college, they have been working full time, but college starts on, we'll just say the 20th of the month. And so from the 20th to the last day of the month, maybe they were used to working 8 or 10 hours a day. And now college has started and they can only work 4 hours a day, or even just 20 hours a week where they were working 40 hours a week. And they find themselves at the end of that first month of school and they go, oh, I have to pay my rent next month, or I have to buy groceries or pay the utility bill. And my paycheck doesn't go as far because my paycheck isn't as big because I've been going to school and not working as many hours. And so we're able to help them with a short-term, no interest loan to be able to pay some of those expenses until their aid pays back to them or until they can get a little bit of savings or get adjusted to college. Sometimes we have programs that are very expensive in regards to tools or supplies outside of what can be purchased in our bookstore. And so they may need some upfront financial assistance to be able to buy those items, and our emergency loans can help them with that as well. But I've also seen the student who were mid-semester, even toward the end of the semester, that they have a flat tire on their way to class and maybe they needed new tires anyway, and that tire cannot be repaired. And I think about, a tire is $150, but they don't have that. And it wasn't in their budget. And they couldn't buy new tires until they were able to save up some money. But yet they need that tire to be able to get to school. And so we can be able to help them with those kinds of expenses as well. Our care team at Butler, which is a unique team that helps, identify students who are at risk in some way, or maybe they let a professor know that they're struggling with a certain need. That instructor can alert our care team and let our care team know that, hey, we have a student that is struggling with this issue. And the care team can help get that student either over to us to help them with an emergency loan or other resources in our community, such as food banks or the United Way, or maybe there's a local church that helps with a particular need. And so those emergency loans can be really critical support to students who find themselves in some kind of pickle.
And it's more of that helping people where they're at, making sure that we're doing everything to retain that student. And the emergency loan program, I know a few years ago, we pulled data that showed that it did help retention with the majority of the students who had received funds. And so that's it's a small piece of the pie for us and for the college as a whole, but it's very vital because every student matters and every student is a student we need. So I just like to highlight it when we can because it's just something that it feels a little underground sometimes and we want it to be known.
Well, and we do. And, one of the things that Butler's put in place is a retention software tool that we use. And I know that I get alerts when students are flagged for maybe a personal crisis, or maybe it's just simply that they don't have the book that they need. And so they don't have the supply that they need to be successful in class. And so we have resources to be able to help with those costs or needs. And so it really does keep students in class and engaged in learning. But more importantly than even that, it makes a student feel heard and it makes a student feel valued. And it helps them understand that this is a community of people that want to see them succeed. And really in life, that's what we want as humans to feel valued and to feel heard and seen and listened to. And that emergency loan program provides that opportunity. And you're right, the data shows that it keeps those students engaged and in classes. And most of the time they complete their degree path or goal, whatever that may have been, because it may have just been a certification that
Mhm.
allowed them to have a higher earning potential because they have that certification, or it could be an associate degree. Everybody's different. So
Yep.
thank you. Thanks for asking about that program because it's pretty near and dear to my heart. And in the grand scheme of dollars that we support the institution with, it's a small amount, but the impact is huge.
Mhm. Yeah. And completing degrees leads me perfectly to the last way we're going to talk about that we provide some assistance through scholarship support. It's not the last way we do it by any means, but very soon, sooner than we want, probably, you'll be really, really busy working on commencement and transfer scholarships, which is a little more unique to us as a community college. I feel like the amount of transfer scholarships that we give away, that we're able to give away with donor support, is pretty substantial for a 2-year institution. So tell us about how that's grown because it definitely has changed since our largest one was established to now where we're giving away 7 or 8 transfer scholarships, I think.
Yes. And that's super exciting because we have the opportunity to recognize students' achievements and their hard work when they're here through our scholarship program. But we also have, with our transfer scholarships, an opportunity to encourage them to continue their education. Granted, not everybody that comes here is going to continue their education at an institution of higher education, but some will. And sometimes that's their goal. And so we are able to provide them with an opportunity to apply for those transfer scholarships that will support them at their next institution. And when I got here 2 decades ago, we had our R.D. Hubbard Award of Excellence, and that was for our, I don't necessarily want to say highest achieving student, but it was for that student was recognized as our best of the best. They well-rounded, academically successful, involved in all things Butler, and really involved and headed off to another institution to continue. And that scholarship at the time was a $4,000 transfer scholarship paid out over 4 semesters. And that was a really nice award. And it's something that we are appreciative of, and we continue to support that excellence. But the benefactor who started that scholarship was an entrepreneur. He was a go-getter. He was a risk taker. And that's what he loved about Butler is his opportunity to start small and grow and hustle, if you will, in life and learn and work hard. And those are the things that he wanted to honor and foster in our students. And so now that scholarship has grown to be a $15,000 transfer scholarship. And all I can say is, wow, that's life-changing for a student. Of course, educational costs have increased over time. And so, of course, the disbursement for that scholarship has also grown. But we've also been able to add other transfer scholarships as an offering to our students and celebrate their academic success and to encourage them and support them along the journey. Now, when our R.D. Hubbard Award of Excellence, Fran Jabara sat on that committee to help select that student. And now we have a transfer scholarship in honor of Fran that supports a student who is majoring in business, which was his area of study and entrepreneurship. And it supports a student who's transferring to Wichita State, as Fran was a very generous contributor to that institution as well. And so that's been fun to see that grow and get established. And we have some others along the way that are specific to the alma mater of our benefactor. And then we have others that are open that the student gets to choose. And that's always good as well. I know that for a long time, our local Butler County Historical Museum and Kansas Oil Museum has supported a history major with an award, an outstanding history student award. And now that award also comes with a monetary transfer scholarship as well. And so that's just another way to incentivize students to work hard while they're working on their degree here, but also that we want to support them and encourage them along their journey and at their next institution. And so we will get underway with that process, and those opportunities are available to students who are graduating in May of this year. So we will start that process and get rolling.
Yeah, it's exciting, all the ways that our office impacts our students. And these are all of the, financial ways we're able to help. But across the college, and I've spoken about this before on the show, I know that everybody does their part, even if it's directing a student to the right building to find Averie Nelson to talk about scholarships. And so I like to highlight that we do this part, everybody does their part, and it's what makes Butler so great. Do you have any last words of wisdom for anybody about Butler, or anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Oh, last words of wisdom. Sometimes I think, especially for our local community members, they see us on a regular basis out and about, and it's easy to forget what a really great institution this is. But for our listeners who are across the nation or our Butler alums, just reminding them what a special place this is and how great it is. And we may be just a community college, but oftentimes we are not a student's first choice. Sometimes we're their only choice. And we have a home for them here, and we will help them grow. And this truly is a family. And we, want to see students be successful, and we will meet you where you are, and we will help you along the way. And that may be a budget counseling session if you're here for a student emergency loan, or maybe it might just be a friendly face and a smile because you're having a really bad day. And it may be that you are far from home and you're missing your family, and it might just be a friendly hug. But we're here to help in not only just the financial ways like we've talked about, but also in that emotional way, and just walking alongside them in life and helping them achieve their goals.
Well, that's it in a nutshell. If you want to get a hold of Averie, her contact information is available on the foundation website, which is butlerccfoundation.org. And Averie, thanks again for making time on Bear Tracks today for us.
Thank you, Hayley. It's been a pleasure being your guest today on Bear Tracks.
Thanks for listening to Bear Tracks, the official podcast of Butler Community College. We hope you found the conversation as entertaining and enlightening as we did. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, and don't forget to visit our website or email us at beartrackspodcast@butlercc.edu for more resources and opportunities to connect. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to bringing you more thought-provoking conversations on the next episode of Bear Tracks.